Cave Retro. There you are.
Come on, you slow ass phone. And looks like the stream is good and strong.
Q. All right. That is published on Facebook.
All right.
Let me share it on my page. Cool.
Right,
and I've got the
all right, now we start the show and everybody on the planet's gonna start texting me. I got like Steve and a group chat going with my band.
I've gotten to where I just kind of have to put my phone away whenever we do the show, just because I get messages. Of course, people message me when I don't need them to.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Now we're good to go. I'm putting the phone on the floor, so if 85 group text messages get me, they won't bug me. So,
all right, hopefully I got. Hang on. I don't think that's right.
All right, it's still going strong. Got 2 viewers already. Yay! Hey guys, whoever you are.
Cool. Hi. All right. All right. Now I'm good to go.
All right. Here we go. Let me make sure I got this going. Get all these cords out. I got to get cordless over here, man. Or get something. Get all these cords out of the way. Looks like a steampunk video over here.
Yeah, same thing with my desk. Like off to my right is nothing but like a ton of XLR cables and USB cables. It's awful.
I want to get a boom arm for my my microphone sooner or later. I've been meaning to do that. Every time I'm not doing the show, I don't think about it until I'm doing the show. I'm like, damn it, I need a boom arm. And then as soon as the show's over, I forget.
The boom arm's fantastic. I got one that I actually drilled into my desk.
Yeah, that's what I want to do too.
Right, it's awesome. I love it.
All right, well, I'm good to go if you are.
Yep.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Do you like this show and you want to help support us? Do you want us to stay ad-free? Do you want extra episodes every month? Well, then head over to patreon.com/nerdcaveretro and become a Patreon supporter of this very show. Please turn down. Oh boy, that was fun. Stupid soundboard won't cooperate with me. Yeah. Greetings, programs, and welcome to another edition of the Nerd Cave Retro Show. My name is Jason Robbins.
And my name is Derek Diamond.
And hopefully my soundboard will cooperate the rest of the night. Stupid soundboard. Not starting the show off great, Derek. We're just not.
I feel like the curse of Skype has followed us over to Discord.
I know. I couldn't get. Dude, it took 15 minutes for Discord to boot up tonight. Remember last week we tried to do it. I had to actually reboot my computer. So I don't know what's going on. I think it's time for a new computer. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, I had some computer issues as well. Not show related, but that seems to be one of the few times that my computer actually decides to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we can go ahead and move into what we've been up to this week.
Yes.
So on Sunday, I sat down and I decided I'm going to finish the rough cut of The Parker Syndrome, which is, for those who might be listening for the first time, it's a short film that I directed a few months ago. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to keep communication with humanity to a minimum, and I'm just going to sit down and do it. And I sat at my computer for almost 10 hours.
Wow.
I took a lunch break and I took, I think, like 2 restroom breaks, but
Hmm.
no, I had slept in that morning and I started editing around 9:30. And then, I remember texting you
Hmm.
whenever it was done, but no, my computer crashed 4 times
Wow.
on Sunday.
That sucks.
Yeah, it was atrocious. So it was literally, I had Adobe Premiere open, and every time I would move a clip, I would save it just
Hmm.
in the event that it crashed again.
Yeah.
But got it done. There's still a lot of work to be done on it, like with sound editing in music, sound effects, color correction. There's probably a few things I'm going to tweak. There's a couple of shots that I don't like. So,
Dude, even
um,
without color correction, it looks great.
I know it's,
It looks
and that's
so
that's a
good.
huge shout out to Kevin. It looks
Yeah.
so freaking good.
And the sound is just perfect. Like, I don't know who the sound guy was on the movie, but
I,
that guy
it was
needs some residuals on the back end is what happens with that guy.
well the sound of everything that was shot on day one.
Oh
Day
yeah.
day two was a little lacking in quality,
Oh
but
yeah.
it was. But hey, no one's perfect, right?
Well, that the original guy couldn't stay for the entire second day. He had other projects he had to go work on, so he had to leave early.
Yeah, he had that thing at the place.
Yeah, he had that thing. But
Yeah.
no, dude, it's really good. Just as the rough cut, like I was highly impressed with it.
Yeah, that was something that, Steve was telling me because he was giving me some takeaways from it after he watched it. And he said, honestly, without the color correction, it's a great looking
Oh
film.
yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, so it's, like I said, there's still a lot of work to be done on it, but getting the rough cut done was a huge step. And it took me a long time to do, but you know what? I got it done. So that's the important thing. So now we just move on to more editing, and I'm actually doing some I guess you'd call it a little bit of publicity for it. I'm recording so Bill Lyons, who, and I was kind of trolling him a little bit. He was the other sound guy who took over after you had to leave. I'm doing his podcast along with Steve tomorrow
Cool.
to talk about the film. It's going to be a pre-recorded show, so I'll let everyone know when it's going to be released. And then this Friday, if you live in Pensacola, Steve and I are going to be on one of Cat Country's morning stations, or morning shows, I should say. I don't know exactly what their FM station is. I'll actually look that up real quick. I think it's 98.7, but we'll be talking about, yes, 98.7. We'll be talking about the local film industry, as well as his film Survey and my film The Parker Syndrome.
Fantastic. And Mr. Joey Image has joined us in the chat room. Hello, Mr. Image.
Yes.
And he says,
Yes.
yes, with you guys too with the PC issues. Of course, they're all dying.
Yeah, they're all taken over. I swear, Skynet is real.
It is. But I
Yeah,
have got
he,
to tell you guys about the most awesome 2 weeks of my life.
I was going to say, you had a pretty uneventful weekend, right?
Yeah, so as everybody that's been listening to the show for a while knows that I have had quite a rough couple of months, and a rough end to the year last year, a rough beginning to this year, and I really needed a win. I needed something good to happen. Well, a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine invited me to go hang out in New Orleans for the St. Patrick's Day parade because they had a timeshare over there and they invited me to come over and hang out. So I decided, you know what? I need a weekend away. I need to get away. So I'll go over there. Plus, there's some friends coming in town because a certain Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie was being filmed in New Orleans at the time. So I had a lot of friends coming into town that were going to be a part of that production. So I thought it'd be a good chance to meet everybody in one place, people that I don't get to see very often. So that weekend, which was not this past weekend but the last St. Patrick's Day weekend, I met up with Brian O'Halloran and a couple of other friends, Matt Westphalen, who was also in Monsters Anonymous, and Brent Henry, who was in Monsters Anonymous. And I can't say who all that I ended up having dinner with, but let's just say it was a certain View Askew movie that me and Matt and Brent got to eat dinner with almost the entire cast of the movie. It was unreal. We got to hear all sorts of behind the scenes stuff. And so it was a great night. And after that night, I was like, there is no way that next weekend could even, there's no way I could ever top that weekend. I was just like, there's just no way. That was like the best weekend of my life. Cut to a week later. A friend of mine named Natasha, who's also a huge Kevin Smith fan, calls me up and says, hey, what are you doing Saturday? I said, not much. I got to work Sunday, but I don't really do much on Saturday nights. And she says, well, I happen to know the craft service person who worked on Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, because she used to work in craft services herself when she lived in LA. So she knows the person that was working on the movie. And she got invited to the wrap party and invited me to go with her. And of course, I was like, does a bear shit in the woods? Yes, I want to go to the wrap party. So I grabbed, luckily I always keep Monsters Anonymous merch on me. So I grabbed the DVD, poster, and a t-shirt out of my car. And we headed to New Orleans to go to the wrap party. And we get there, and Kevin's not there yet. I see Jason Mewes as soon as I walk in the door. But I'm kind of standing over in the corner. People probably thought I was nuts because I'm just standing there scanning the room, just like a Terminator the whole time. Just like, when is Kevin going to show up? So we kind of walk around. And the place is separated into like 3 different rooms. It was at a barcade in New Orleans. So we kind of walk from room to room. We go to the first room again, and my friend Natasha just starts elbowing me like, oh, God, he's here. He's here. Kevin and Jay Mewes is walking Kevin Smith and his wife Jennifer over to the VIP section. He walks right in front of me. Like, I could have stepped out and been directly in his path. Like, he walked right in front of me. And I look over, and him and Jay Mewes are standing up kind of on this little, like, couple flights upstairs at this little VIP section. And I was just like, I didn't see anybody around. So I was just like, I'm going to go talk to him. And Natasha was like, yeah, good luck with that. Because I was thinking I was going to get like immediately tackled by like security or something as soon as I walked up there. Nope. I walked up and he looked at me and he did the usual Kevin Smith, hey man, how are you doing? I was like, I did Monsters Anonymous with Jeremy London. And he looked at me and he goes, I saw that movie. He's like, it was really good. And that started the conversation. I literally talked to him for like, it felt like 30 seconds, but Natasha said it was like 10 minutes. Like I told him like he was a huge influence and all this stuff. I gave him the Monsters Anonymous merch and he loved all that, and told him that, you know, when he had his heart attack, it inspired me to go vegetarian. I lost 50 pounds. Like, we had a whole conversation, man. And dude, it was absolutely one of the best nights of my life. And the weird thing is like, as soon as that was done, I walked down the staircase and I was just like, I almost had like an existential crisis, because I felt like Alexander when he reached the edge of the world and wept because he had no more land to conquer. Like, I'd done everything I ever wanted to do. Like, I met Kevin Smith. What do I do now? Like, what do I do? But I was like, there's no way this weekend is going to be better than that weekend. Like, it can't be. So that was what happened.
So I noticed, I think it was Sunday morning, when I woke up, I checked like my social media and whatnot, and the first thing I saw on Instagram was you with Kevin Smith, and I just said out loud, holy shit. That's I couldn't, like, I didn't really know how to put it into words. I was like, that is so amazing, because I know we're both huge Kevin Smith fans, and we've mentioned him several times on this show. You've talked about him a lot on Pop Culture Palette.
Yeah,
he's such an inspiration for so many people, and to hear that he was exactly who you thought he would be,
oh yeah,
was awesome. So that's so cool, and especially with all the stuff that you've gone through over the last few months, it's awesome. So that's great.
I'm just like, what is the universe going to throw at me next? Oh, and
You'll be caught on set to work with Kevin Smith. That's how you top it.
Thad has joined us in the chat room. Hi, Thad.
Yeah, shout out to Thad.
And he says, "Where was that you met him?" By the way, it's a place called Barcadia in New Orleans. It's kind of close to the Harris Casino, one of the side streets over there, and it's a really cool place. Like we play some skee ball. And there's all kind of like arcade games and stuff in there. It's a really cool place if you ever get to go over there and check it out.
Yeah, but no, that's so cool. Like we've both had good weekends.
Yeah, we did.
You got to meet an inspiration, so that's awesome.
Hopefully this is the point where the year gets better.
I would definitely say it already has.
But on that note, let's go ahead and move into the news, shall we?
Sure.
Let me pull up the news story here, and it's on USA Today, so it might take a minute for it to pop up. Nintendo may soon add a cheaper and more powerful Switch to its lineup. A news report from the Wall Street Journal claims that the company could be planning 2 new consoles for it as soon as this summer. Citing anonymous people familiar with the matter, the report says that Nintendo is prepping 2 new devices, a cheaper version of the Switch that would be equivalent of a Nintendo 3DS replacement, as well as a more powerful model similar to how Microsoft and Sony have each released souped-up versions of the game consoles. The more enhanced Switch, however, won't be as powerful as the Xbox One X or PlayStation 4 Pro, and Nintendo has a track record of looking to differentiate its latest products with more than just graphical boosts. Both devices could make appearances at June's E3 gaming event, the Journal reports. It's unclear exactly how much the new consoles might cost or what new features would offer. But according to the Journal, the cheaper Switch may lose vibration functionality as part of a way to cut costs. So this was kind of expected. I thought it would actually be sooner than that it happened. But, I mean, this is kind of par for the course as far as the lifetime of a console. You're going to get, kind of an upgrade and sort of a more economically viable version sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. I don't see myself buying the more powerful Switch immediately, but
yeah, me neither.
It might be something I consider down the line because I mean, I've been still loving the Switch. I play it almost every day. I think the cheaper version is a good idea for those who, can't quite afford.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what the Switch is only $300.
Yeah, it's actually it's totally worth the money, but yeah, if you don't care about like Rumble or something like that,
yeah,
it's totally worth whatever. I imagine it's probably going to be at least $50 cheaper. I'd say $200 to $250 probably for the cheaper version.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. Our next story comes to us from GameSpot.com.
Who dies in one hit, rewinding everything
please
to the
shut up, autoplay.
Yeah, I tried to prep for those as best I could. I hate those pop-ups so much. New Nintendo Switch game and Nindy's News Roundup. It's been a good week for Nintendo Switch fans looking for something new. Wednesday was home to the Nindy Spring Showcase, a direct-style video stream that ran for half an hour and focused exclusively on indie games, which I'm a huge fan of Nintendo doing that, by the way. During it, Nintendo revealed some new games, including some surprise ones and further detailed ones we already knew about. Well, there's one that's mentioned that is its own separate story that we'll get to next, so I'll skip that one.
Yeah, I meant to tell you that before we started, that I have a separate article for that. Yeah,
which I'm so stoked for that one, but we'll get to that in a second. The stream was capped off with an out-of-nowhere announcement as Nintendo announced a Zelda-themed successor to Crypt of the Necrodancer called Cadence of Hyrule.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually watched some gameplay from Crypt of the Necrodancer, and it looks like a lot of fun. So it might be one that, because it has that Zelda moniker attached to it, I'm going to try it out just for that reason.
Me too.
But the trailer looks good. The trailer's attached to the article, so definitely check it out. I'm glad that Nintendo has really kind of embraced the indie game community, and I think that Having a console like the Switch is perfect for indie games.
Well, especially this one that's coming out. This looks like it's going to be pretty good. The retro Netflix show Stranger Things is getting a game to match with this co-op action game that sports a 16-bit style. In Stranger Things 3, the game, you can fight your way through Hawkins and the latest threats from the Upside Down. As one of 12 playable characters, it will be released alongside Season 3 of the show on July 4th.
I still need to watch Season 2 of that.
You haven't watched Season 2 yet?
There's a lot of stuff I haven't watched.
Sir, you need to give up the nerd card right now. This show is over. I'm done.
All right, fair enough. Bye.
Bye. But on the next story, as far as another game that was announced for the Nintendo Switch, this is also on GameSpot.com. Oh, you stupid autoplay. Stop.
What?
Why do they do that? We've had this conversation 50 times with the damn autoplay videos.
No, I'm not. I don't disagree with you on any of it. No,
Lord.
It's obnoxious and it's awful.
It's awful. It's so obnoxious. All right, get my head straight. Cuphead announced for Nintendo Switch will have Xbox Live support on April 18th. Nintendo showed off a ton of games during its Indie Spring Showcase, but one of the biggest announcements came right at the beginning of the presentation when the company revealed Cuphead is coming to Nintendo Switch next month. The acclaimed platformer arrives in the Switch eShop for April 18th, but you can pre-purchase it from the digital store right now. I am extremely excited to play Cuphead. I've been wanting to play this ever since it was released on Xbox, but since I don't have an Xbox, I never got to play it. So now that it's coming to the Switch, I am so going to pick this up day one.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100% with everything you said. It's everything from the gameplay to the art style, which looks like an old, 1930s or 1940s cartoon. It just looks like a game that would be damn near perfect. And I know it was, it says here GameSpot awarded Cuphead an 8 out of 10 when it first launched on Xbox One.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming, and it's great to see that it lives up to its initial promises. And it's everything from how it looks to the soundtrack, all of it. Like, I'm so excited. And like you, I don't have an Xbox, so I wasn't going to buy an Xbox just to play Cuphead. Because I knew eventually it had to come out to another console. And yeah, I know it's on Steam, but I'm glad that I waited for it to be announced for the Switch. This will be a day one purchase for me.
It's the perfect game to put on the Switch. And now that...
Drink Wally.
Yeah, now that Nintendo and Microsoft are kind of getting buddy-buddy, I think we're going to see more and more. Do you think there's some sort of weird, like, I don't know, maybe a hybrid console or something coming soon? Because the next story we're talking about is, of course, the Google Chrome thing, the Stadia that was announced this last week. And I've heard a lot of talk about how Google has the infrastructure for this type of thing. Microsoft has an infrastructure for this type of thing. So do you think Nintendo and Microsoft are kind of maybe partnering up for some sort of Stadia-like online gaming platform?
Could you imagine if they announced that at E3 this year?
What if that happens? That would be awesome.
The internet would explode.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Thad said that Steph loved Cuphead when she was on, when she used to play it on Twitch. And Stephanie is our old co-host on Pop Culture Palette. And I don't know how much it is. Did it say how much it was going to be on the
let me pull
the article? I didn't see anywhere where...
Yeah, I didn't either.
I imagine it's going to be like $20 at least, $15 to $20 at least.
Yeah, it can't be that expensive.
Yeah.
So for our last story, comes to us from TVOvermind.com. Is Sega partnering with Google on next-gen console? ? If you're a gamer, you have long been familiar with Sega. Sega's basically been out of the console game for a while. I think their last console was the Dreamcast. And since then, they've been exclusively making games. Let's see. Beyond that, Sega is known for looking ahead. They do not want to get left behind with shifting technology. so they are often the first to try out new things and look for ways to be proactive in creating the best gaming console. That is why fans of Sega have long looked to them to provide the next great advances in the field. Now it appears that they may be willing to work with other tech companies in order to further take their creative thinking abilities outside the box. So basically, long story short, there have been rumors that Sega and Google are going to collaborate to possibly create a console. What say you about that?
Well, honestly, like I just talked about a minute ago, I think because Sega it works so closely with Nintendo now, I really think it's more of a Nintendo thing. I don't know. I think it's kind of more in our face that Nintendo and Google are gonna not Google, but Nintendo and Microsoft are gonna team up. But I don't know if Sega kind of takes their properties back from Nintendo and goes over to Google. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the thing is, and I loved, the Sonic games back in the day, and that's primarily what Sega's known for. I was never a huge Genesis fan. Well, I mean, the band's great, but I'm talking about the gaming company. But they've been out of the console game, though, for so long that I don't know if, between Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, I don't know if they have such a stronghold on console gaming that you could bring in a fourth one.
Well, I think that if Google comes out with the Stadia thing, they're really more looking for content as far as games. Mm-hmm. I don't think Sega's going to be... I mean, if they do partner, then they would be able to have more first-party Sega-developed things, which I think makes more sense. That might be what these rumors are, which would make more sense than them trying to do sort of a platform type of thing. I think Sega would work with them as far as developing first-party games.
Well, the last paragraph of the article says the bottom line is that we know the new gaming console from Google is coming. Mm-hmm. We also know that they have a new streaming service coming online in the near future. What we do not know is where they plan on getting their games from. Mm-hmm. Google is not really in the video game business, so it makes perfect sense that they would partner with a company like Sega to do just that. On that aspect, I agree with it.
Yeah.
You'll just have to stay tuned to see what happens with this rumor. Gamers are likely excited about the prospect. Something new is on the horizon, which means new technology and more innovative platform.
I mean, that's exciting to me. If they bring out new Sonic games and, bring back some of the old Sega IPs to put out in a modern context, I'm totally down with that.
Only if they're good Sonic games.
Oh, yeah. Not the 3D weird ones that we've had to deal with.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and move into this month in video game history. Let's see. It kind of dried up a little bit at the end of March here. I had to go digging pretty deep to find some of these. In March of 1988, RC Pro-Am by Rare was released for the NES in North America in 1988, and then in Europe on April 15th. Presented in an overhead isometric perspective, a single player races a radio-controlled car around a series of tracks. And I actually did a review of RC Pro-Am about, a year or so ago, year and a half ago. One of the earlier shows we did, but I love RC Pro-Am. That's one of my favorite Nintendo games.
I want to say this was featured in The Wizard.
No, it wasn't. You're thinking of Rad Racer.
Okay.
With the Power Glove. It's so bad.
It's so bad. Yeah, no, I've never played it, but I do remember you reviewing it, and it does look like a fun game.
Yeah,
most racing games are fun to an extent.
It's one of the more fun racing games you can get for the NES because it's not convoluted. It's really kind of simple, but also you can upgrade your vehicles, which is really fun. And it's just kind of one of those plug and play type of games. You don't have to think too hard. It's just you put it in, you play for an hour or two, and that's really all you need.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, Thad also says, I really wish Rare and Nintendo would kiss and make up.
Yeah, me too.
God, that would be so awesome.
That would be great.
One of the best, gaming marriages when it comes to companies was Nintendo and Rare back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
March 1989, Ninja Gaiden was released in Japan. And its Japanese meaning is literally Legend of the Ninja Dragon Sword, and as Shadow Warriors in Europe. And as a side-scrolling cinematic action platforming video game, Tecmo developed and published it for the NES. Its development and release coincided with the beat-em-up arcade version of the same name. Ninja Gaiden is one of the more iconic games from that time.
And my white whale.
And your white whale.
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to make a bold prediction. By December 31st of 2019, you will have beaten Ninja Gaiden.
You have a lot more faith in me than I do, friend.
Your year's already off to a good start. I think you should end the year with beating Ninja Gaiden.
And I'm going to do it on original hardware too. I know it's on the on the Switch, but I don't know. I like playing on the original hardware, so I think I'm going to try to beat it on my original NES by the end of the year. It'll happen. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
And to close us out for this month in video game history, in March of 1993, X-Men was released for the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis. It was based on the adventures of the Marvel Comics superhero team, the X-Men. 1 or 2 players can play as any of 4 pre-chosen X-Men. It was released in 93 and was followed up by X-Men 2 Clone Wars.
Not to be confused with the Star Wars film.
No.
Now, I never played this one. And, during that time, I was really starting to get into the Marvel stuff like X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk, but never really played any of those games growing up.
I had that X-Men game for the brief stint that I actually had a Sega Genesis there for a little while. And it was a pretty good game. It was your basic kind of your side-scrolling platformer, but it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it.
There's something about those games, like a lot of them are similar, but they're all fun in their own way. Like that formula is so simple, but it still works to this day, and it's awesome.
You get to play as Wolverine, and who doesn't want to play Wolverine all the time,
right? You gotta love Wolverine.
But that closes us out for this month in video game history, and tonight Derek is going to be talking about. Yeah.
It's interesting, and I don't know, I guess it's a Discord thing, but the music keeps cutting in and out, like even when you play the little sound bites.
Really? See, it
cuts out on my end.
Yeah, I used to do that back when we were on PCP too. We weren't on PCP, but Pop Culture Palette. Probably shouldn't say PCP out of context. But yeah, because Wally and Stephanie used to say that the sound cut out, and I don't know why. That's weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. It's even when you play like the sound bites to transition to different segments, the sound will cut out completely. It's very strange, but either way, this week, so I wanted to review this game. I was either going to do it tonight or I was going to wait for 2 weeks for my next review, but I figured we're in WrestleMania season if you're a WWE fan. And my next review won't be until after WrestleMania 35, so I figured I would go ahead and do this game tonight. But I'm going to be reviewing, I believe this was probably the first wrestling game that I ever played for any console. It's WWF WrestleMania 2000 for the Nintendo 64 console. It was originally released in 1999 and was developed by THQ. So during this time, I know you reviewed the WrestleMania game for the NES not too long ago, and I knew of wrestling when I was very young, but didn't really watch it. And I really got into it in the late '90s when the Attitude Era and WCW were at their peak, and that was something that I was such a huge junkie for that kind of stuff that I had to have merchandise. I watched all the pay-per-views. I watched every single Monday night. Watched both shows, and if it had WWF or WCW on it, I had to have it.
Yeah, and this was around the time that I kind of fell out of watching wrestling by this time. I was not a fan of like the Attitude Era when things started to change. I watched wrestling from like the early 80s when I was a really little kid up until about, I'd say probably 93, 94, and then the Attitude Era everything kind of started to change to that Attitude Era, and I wasn't a huge fan of that, so I kind of slowly just kind of dropped off and didn't watch it after that.
Well, it was very different from, and since then I've gone back and I've watched like a lot of the old shows from the mid to late 80s and even into the early 90s, and yeah, the Attitude Era was very different, and some of it was very over the top, but there were some things that still hold up and I hold, as very precious memories. So
yeah,
I got this game when it came out, and I had an absolute blast playing it because I'd never played a wrestling game before. And I was reading, I remember to this day reading the manual and then seeing that, you can create your own wrestlers. So me and my friends would create ourselves. And I'm sure I can speak for almost everyone who's played a wrestling game before, is you create yourself, you create your friends, and then you just beat the hell out of each other. It was really a fun time, but it was actually a lot of fun going back and even playing this game because I haven't played it in a long time. I found a copy of it for the N64 a while back, but didn't really play it too much. I knew it was one that I would get to at some point, and I've been playing it over the past week. And I'll go ahead and get the bad stuff out of the way, and we've talked about this era of 3D gaming and that kind of awkward transition from 2D to 3D.
Yeah.
This ain't a pretty game.
I was going to say, I'm
say that.
Looking at some of the screenshots here, and yeah, it definitely has that, that
ugly polygonal type look to it.
Yeah, it doesn't look good at all.
Well, something that I noticed as I was, looking through the roster when I was playing the game is that they all have these polygonal looks to them, but it was like someone basically made a copy of every wrestler's face, cut them out with scissors, and pasted them on like the polygonal bodies. But gameplay wise, this game actually still holds up. It took me a bit to get used to it because, like I said, I haven't played it in so long. But after a few minutes, I was kind of back in the groove of it, and it was still a lot of fun. And
really?
It's a very simple game compared to, I think, some of the newer wrestling games, because the story mode is simply, you start out, it's called The Road to WrestleMania, and you start out in April, like right after that year's Mania, and you can create your own wrestler, or you can use someone on the current roster at the time, and you just go through your storylines, you fight on the various pay-per-views, you try and work your way up, and then you try and win the world title at WrestleMania. So it sounds very simple, but I kind of like that. So it's one cool thing was that I remembered this, as I was reading it, but if you would win various titles, so say back then there were different titles than there are now. So if you had like the Intercontinental title and you were one half of the tag team champions, you would possibly have to defend both those titles in two separate matches on a show. So I thought that was kind of cool, but for the time, it actually had a pretty good roster. I won't go through the the whole roster because that would take way too long. But it had, your WWF, mainstays back in the day. Like you had Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, The Rock, Triple H, Chris Jericho, Big Boss Man, DX. You had, a few of the divas at the time, the female wrestlers. And you could also unlock a few different peoples because I remember, my favorite wrestler growing up at that time was Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I obviously went through the storyline with him, went through the road to WrestleMania. But then when you win the championship, Shawn Michaels comes out and you have to fight him just as an impromptu type thing.
Oh, wow.
And once you fight him, then you unlock him. And you can play as him, in exhibition matches and whatnot. And there's
cool.
There's a few different, like you can unlock, the other personalities of Mick Foley. Like you start out as just Mankind, but you have, you can unlock Cactus Jack and Dude Love, his alter egos, by doing certain situations. And, it's a wrestling game. Oh, Dude Love was underrated.
Oh, I love that character.
Yeah.
Oh, Mixmaster is in the chat room tonight too. What's up, man?
Yeah, shout out to Mixmaster. Yeah, he's saying he just got finished with his bowling league.
Yep.
He misses Austin and The Rock. I do too.
Bring out the beer truck.
I've always the beer truck. That was actually, to tell you how old that we're all getting, that beer truck incident that he's talking about. So it's basically Stone Cold drove a beer truck out to the ring and sprayed Vince McMahon and The Rock with beer.
That's awesome.
that happened this past week. That happened 20 years ago.
Wow. It's crazy.
Next year, we can say the 2000s were 20 years ago.
Oh, don't tell me that. I don't want to think about that. Shut up.
But anyway, so WrestleMania 2000, it uses the game engine and gameplay similar to a game that came out right before that, which was WCW NWO Revenge. THQ made pretty much all the wrestling games at that point. But what's cool about it is that you can actually change the actual wrestler's attire. So if you wanted to just do something silly and put the Hardy Boys attire on The Rock, you could do that. If you wanted to change moves, you can do that. And you could, so say if you were doing like a tag team match and you put two wrestlers who in storyline were tag teams, they wouldn't come out individual, like is their tag team name and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of a first, for that time. It was really the beginning of having a much more customizable type experience rather than a lot of the older games that I read about where you just kind of, pick the person and you have your matches and that's kind of what you do.
Well, it said here, in addition to the numerous default and secret characters, several other realistic likenesses and move sets in the Create a Wrestler mode make it possible to add even more characters. Some examples include the Road Warriors, Hulk Hogan, Taka Michinoku, and Davey Boy Smith. Also, some taunts and movesets were carried over from WCW NWO Revenge, allowing the player to create and include WCW wrestlers such as Goldberg, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Diamond Dallas Page, and Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah, that's something that really since then, all the companies that have created games have done is they put little nuggets in there where you won't have the exact same wrestler. Like it won't be a perfect creation, but it's enough to where you could have your dream matches. Because back then, WCW and WWF were going head to head, and it was must see TV every week from both sides. So to create, like you could have Goldberg versus Steve Austin, or you could have DDP against The Rock. And it was a lot of fun, and something that I love doing was when in wrestling games you have what are called taunts. Like a lot of wrestlers have different gestures that you can do to others. So like for Stone Cold, you can literally give someone the middle finger, which is a little immature, but I'm not gonna lie, I did that. I was just playing an exhibition match last week, and I did that, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome. But no, this was a fun game, and like I said, it's fairly straightforward. There's not a lot to it, but I love the customizability, if that's a real word.
Yeah.
Being able to change things about the actual wrestlers and not just your created wrestler. It has a lot of variety of matches. The story mode is simple, but I actually like that in a wrestling game.
Yeah.
They've become much more complicated. Now, I haven't played a lot of the newer games. Like, since they switched to 2K, then I haven't played any of those. I think the last one I played was maybe WWE 12 or 13. And I think right after that was when they made the switch, and I haven't really played one since. And I've been wanting to, but I don't have a ton of time to play newer games.
I can't even tell you the last time I played a wrestling game, other than the first WrestleMania game for the NES that I reviewed not too long ago, which that was an abomination of a video game.
Yeah, they've gotten better. I mean, definitely even the graphics from the wrestling games now look so much better than they did back in the day. But really, my only knock to this game is that it's hideous looking.
Yeah. Man, there was a lot of wrestlers in this game.
Oh yeah, the roster was pretty stacked, and that's
crazy.
The superstar section, that's not even including the wrestlers that you can unlock.
Yeah.
I think you could only create maybe 6 to 8 creator wrestlers, which isn't a lot, but you got to think of probably the memory of the cartridge back then.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't allow for a lot. It says here advertising and release, because wrestling was mainstream at that time. I remember seeing like The Rock on the cover of TV Guide, and it was a really mainstream thing. And it says here, in a TV commercial promoting the game, The Rock becomes furious at how the game includes his name, likeness, and moveset. And at the end of the ad, he threatens to shove copies of the game up Santa Claus's candy ass. Got people like the Rock is great now, but if you go back and watch some of his wrestling stuff when he was at the peak of his career, he was gold.
Yeah. Everything
he said was so great. Right? There are times where I even get, I get goosebumps a bit thinking of those times, because it's more than just being entertained. Like, my family and I, we would have watch parties sometimes just to watch Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro, and we would go to my uncle's house to watch all the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
So it was a wild time, and I still keep up with the WWE to this day, and at WrestleMania's in I think 2 weeks from when we were recording this, and I'm definitely looking forward to watching it, but it doesn't have that same spark that it used to have.
Yeah, and Mixmaster was saying in the chat room that he played, the last one for him was Raw versus SmackDown on PS2, and I think that was the last one I played too, because me and Wally used to play that back in the day. And we actually made ourselves as wrestlers in that game too, and it was funny. We made our friend Pete, that was so ridiculously lifelike, that looked exactly like him. It was nuts. And Thad said that he played WCW on N64 and WrestleMania on NES, so those are the only ones that he's played. Yeah, I think that Raw versus SmackDown was the last one that I played.
Yeah, those games were fun too, and I remember, like WCW games for N64 were good too.
Yeah,
I mean, they're very, very similar. It just depends on which you were more a fan of back in the day. But this game was actually received favorable reviews, and there was a Game Boy Color version, which I actually had no idea that was the case. Received mixed reviews. The final edition of Nintendo Power WrestleMania 2000 was ranked number 223 in a list of the best games released on Nintendo consoles, namely for its massive roster and positive gameplay ability. It's considered to be one of the best wrestling games of all time. I know that No Mercy, which was a WWF game as well, that one's widely regarded as probably the best wrestling game ever, and I haven't played that game in so long. That might be one that I review later on in the year.
Yeah.
But I was always more a fan of this one strictly for, just the characters and the storylines that you could do. But let's see, Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it an 8.25 out of 10. Let's see, Game Fan gave it a 100%. GamePro 4.5 stars. IGN 8.9 out of 10, and Nintendo Power an 8 out of 10.
Wasn't there a wrestling game not too long ago, or maybe it probably decades ago at this point, but it was like Legends of Wrestling or something like that, where you could play pretty much any wrestler from any era, and
yeah, it had kind of like a cartoonish look to it. Like it played like old school arcade style, because you could do like John Cena against the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Or Andre the Giant against the Big Show, and it was built around dream matches. Yeah, that game looked like a lot of fun. I never played it, but it looked like a lot of fun.
When did that come out? Let me look that up. What it was called? Legends. Oh, geez. Was it called?
It had to have been like late 2000s, maybe like 2008 or 2009.
Legends of Wrestling for the PlayStation 2. It was based on the greatest wrestlers of all time. The WWF/WWE, NWA, WCW, WCCW, AWA, ECW, and various independent promotions. It came out for the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, and Xbox. And then a sequel, Legends of Wrestling 2, was released in 2002.
I just realized I was thinking of Legends of Wrestlemania. I know what game you're talking about now.
Legend of Wrestlemania, you said?
Yeah, that was more like a cartoonish arcade style type of game.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of this one too. Yeah, this is one that came out let's see, March 2009.
Yeah, cuz I remember I was watching one of the old Hall of Fame ceremonies, I think 2 or 3 days ago. And that was an advertisement on it. And it was the 2009 Hall of Fame.
Wow. Yeah, this looked like a fun game, but I never played it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Thad says, I love DDP. He was one of my favorites, too. It kind of sucks because he was supposed to be at Pensacon this year, but he got food poisoning. Because he's been, like, as I started doing his workout program.
Yeah, we were joking that he probably ate, like, ate some Taco Bell, and his body just couldn't handle it.
Yeah, because he eats like uber healthy now.
Yeah.
And he asked what wrestling game was that. If he's talking about the WCW one on N64, he might be talking about there was WCW Revenge, and then there was World Tour. I think were the two WCW games for the N64. If that's what you're talking about. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about WrestleMania 2000. It's been a lot of fun going back and playing it. And I'll definitely review either No Mercy or one of the WCW games probably later on in the year.
I think you should review this Legends of WrestleMania game. This looks awesome.
Oh, the cartoonish looking one?
Yeah.
Let's see.
If I still had my PlayStation 3, I would go pick up a copy. Oh, I guess it's backwards compatible with the PlayStation 4.
Oh, I forgot about this one too, WWE All-Stars.
Let's see.
Yeah, it features arcade-style gameplay with over-the-top animation and wrestlers bearing a more exaggerated look.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember this one coming out too.
Yeah, I want to go play a wrestling game now.
I know, right?
When did this one come out? This was 2011 this came out.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to review Legends of WrestleMania.
Yeah, that looks fun.
Oh, I remember this one. It recreates different situations from WrestleMania.
Yeah, and it says it has what's called a rewrite option. It's called 3 options: relive, rewrite, and redefine. And relive, player can play as a legend that won a match over a certain wrestler. Rewrite allows the player to play as the loser of a certain historic match in order to rewrite history. And the player in this mode can watch a recap of the history of certain wrestlers, a recap of their feud, and a recap of their match in WrestleMania. In this mode, the player must complete certain objectives besides winning the match. And in Redefine, the player chooses any wrestler to play and the ability to change the match type. This sounds great.
That's right, because one of the things that they advertised was that you could go back and do the WrestleMania 3 main event and play as Andre and beat Hulk Hogan, so the outcome is different.
Yeah.
If I remember right, this ends at WrestleMania 15, which had the first match between Stone Cold and The Rock. Yeah, I might have to go back and play this, because I never did.
Yeah, I want to play this. This looks fun, especially if it's just kind of like arcade style, just kind of a button masher. I'm down for that. I don't want anything that's like too complicated to play.
Yeah, it came out for the 360 as well, and I do still have mine, so might have to look and see if I can find a copy of that.
Well, if the PlayStation 4 is backwards compatible, I should be able to get this for the PlayStation 4 and be able to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be able to.
That's happening. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go look at GameStop this weekend.
Yeah. So yeah, fantastic. To wrap up my review, I'd give WrestleMania 2000 a solid 8.
Awesome.
I still think the gameplay holds up. It's not a great looking game, but it's a fun reminder of my personal favorite era in the WWE.
Yeah, like I said, that was a little bit after my time of watching wrestling. I was never a big fan of that era, that whole Attitude Era. And I never really picked it back up again. I mean, I still kind of watch it here and there, but I don't get into it like I did when I was a kid.
It's very different.
Yeah.
It seems, and I don't want to turn this into like a, me bitching about the current state of wrestling, but to sum it up is that it feels much more like a TV show rather than, what a wrestling show should feel like. Everything just feels scripted. Like it shouldn't, even though we know it shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And it all feels very scripted. But there are some highlights that are going on right now, but overall it's not nearly what it used to be.
Plus all the wrestlers I loved are starting to die, and it's not great. Like King Kong Bundy just passed away.
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
Oh man, like I loved him when I was a kid.
He's not in the Hall of Fame.
That's a travesty. Like that dude
I know, right?
has been around for a long time. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
What sucks is now he can't do he can't actually physically accept the award. It was kind of the same thing when after Macho Man died, they put him in the Hall of Fame. I was like, that speech would have been epic.
Yeah.
It would have been great, but...
Oh, God. If there's one wrestler I miss the most, it's Randy Macho Man Savage, because that dude was a genius.
Oh, he was great. He, if I were watching wrestling, back then, if this were that era, I would prefer him over Hogan 10 times out of 10.
Dude, I literally will have nights where it'll be late at night and I have nothing to watch, and I will just go on YouTube and just watch Randy Savage promo compilation videos, and just they're so good and just make me laugh. And I'm just like, that dude was he was a comedic genius. He knew what he was doing. And there will never be anybody else like him, ever. Yeah.
No, he was definitely one of a kind.
Cup of coffee in the big time, yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That's my favorite promo of his, the cup of coffee in the big time. If anybody listening to this has never watched that promo video, just go on YouTube and type in Randy Macho Man Savage, cup of coffee in the big time. It's the greatest. It's just the greatest. There will never be another wrestling promo better than that one.
Yeah, it was great. Macho Man was so good. Just overall, he was a good promo. He was good in the ring. He had it all.
The cream of the crop. He had the little coffee creamer.
Yeah.
Oh man, that dude was a genius. Great. But yeah, let's go ahead and start wrapping it up because we're coming up on an hour. And anything else you want to throw in before we hit the end of the show here?
No, just as always, be sure to check out the Derek Diamond Experience podcast. New episodes are available every Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere that you can find podcast. Also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at D Diamond Podcast. Every week I chat with someone who works in the film or television industry about how they got to where they are, what they do, and advice they have for aspiring filmmakers.
Absolutely awesome. You've been killing it with the Derek Diamond Experience lately. So if you're not listening to that show, you're missing out. Go subscribe right now.
Well, I appreciate that.
We had a full chat room tonight. So thank you guys for joining us this evening. And let me go ahead and pull up our music so I can get us out of here tonight. If you would like to email us, and we had no emails for this week, so if you got any questions, just send them to nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. We are at nerdcaveretro.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter at nerdcaveretro, and individually at jfunktastic and at Derek_Diamond. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdcaveretro. Of course, we're on Patreon at patreon.com/nerdcaveretro, and get us back up to that $50 a month mark so we can start doing our audio commentaries again. That was fun. And of course, if you can't do that, you can't throw us $1 a month, go leave us a review wherever you listen to the show, and that will help us get us in front of more people and help the show out immensely. So thank you for everybody that joined us in the chat room tonight. Thank you guys, and we will see you guys next week. And Derek, please tell them what it's all about.
And that's the bottom line, because Nerd Cave Retro said so.
Ooh, yeah!
You blow it!
All right, and that was a show.
Hell yes.
Let me go ahead and that was, what episode was that? 126. And
yep.
Volume 126. And here we go. And yeah, thank all you guys for watching us in the chat room tonight. That was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Love the interaction.
Absolutely. So you guys have a good night, and we will see you next week right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. Goodbye.